And it looks like the video's working just fine as well. It's being broadcast.
Great. Thanks, Kim.
Uh-huh.
Oh, there he is.
Hey. Give it about 2 more minutes.
And there's an Indy 1 in the waiting room. I'm not sure who it is. I just sent a message. I haven't gotten a response.
Okay.
I didn't know if it was one of the developers or if it was one of the ones on the list for public comment.
Okay.
Kim, would you mind, would you mind stating who is on the meeting with us so that I can make sure I have everybody in attendance?
Who is supposed to be here, or just the ones that are showing right now?
Who's actually, yeah, by the time we start, if you could just announce who is with us so that I know exactly who is here at the meeting. Because I don't get information on my screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
One, two, three, four. Who are we missing from the planning? Oh, Taylor's not here. Is Taylor going to be here, Rob?
I haven't heard from Taylor, so I don't know.
We should have Dan Murray in the waiting room, I would think.
And so far, I just have somebody that said Indy 1 is the only one sitting there, and they won't respond as to who they are.
Ah, Taylor's on.
Taylor's here. All right.
He looks younger than I remember.
It's that COVID diet.
He shaved.
Do we know if Jones and Associates is going to be on as well as Barry?
Brandon and Barry both said that they would be on.
I mean, according to my Mickey Mouse, it's 6:02, so I'm just wondering if we should get going.
I'll text Brandon.
Brandon is on now. He just logged in.
Okay. There's Barry. Kim, can we do the flag? Let's get started.
We can, I just got an email from Scott. He's having me forward him the meeting info for tonight since it is different from last night. So give me just 1 second
Okay.
and I will do just that.
You know, all things considering, this is pretty cool technology.
Agreed. It's very nice.
Yeah.
For some reason, I do not have access to the meeting information without going into Zoom itself. Can somebody, hey, Brandon, do you know Scott's email? Can you forward him the meeting information?
Sure.
Thank you. Now, bringing up the flag.
Okay. Well, let's get going. 6:04 is what I got on my clock. Welcome everyone to the Planning Commission meeting, the revised Getting Over Technology meeting. It's June 3rd. All the Planning Commission members are present, as well as, you know what, Michelle asked me to take a quick roll call. Blair Halverson's here, Blair's here. Who am I missing? Brandon Jones is here. Is that all the players here? Does that help, Michelle?
Gary's here.
Yes, that's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, we're all here, so that's good. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Grubb, you want to lead us in that?
You bet. If everybody will rise and repeat with me. I pledge
Allegiance to the
flag of the
of
United States
of America and
and
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everybody. The first item on the agenda is public comment via live Zoom. Those folks have asked to be put on the agenda for some public comment. We have 5 individuals who signed up prior to last Thursday's meeting, and we've invited them to come back and give their public comment. So the rules we've asked is that the individuals speak one time for 30 minutes or less, state your name and address, direct the comments to the entire commission, and note the Planning Commission will not respond during the public comment period. So Kim, if there's anybody in the waiting room.
First one will be Jeffrey Eddings. I'll
Okay.
admit now.
Great, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Eddings, if you're there, you're on. If you want to go ahead and state your comments, we're ready to go.
Okay, can you see me or?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, okay, great. So Jeff Reddings, 2645 East, 7800 South. So I looked over, obviously these comments are in regards to the car wash. So I looked over the new packet that was uploaded on the website, and I just had a few comments about a few things. First of all, just because of where I live and where my neighbors live, I'm concerned with the lighting. I know we talked about this before. It said that in the packet, I believe that the sign was going to be placed behind the building so the residents couldn't see it, which is great. But is that a guarantee? You know, the houses are a little elevated from where the car wash is going to be. So, standing in my bedroom window, am I going to be able to see that sign? I don't know. So, is the sign going to be a static sign, or is it going to be a flashing sign? Is it going to have a scrolling marquee on it of any type? Just curious about that. We already have enough light pollution with the Maverick sign. It drives us crazy, and we would hate to have another sign, flashing and going off and things like that. So anyways, I just wanted to bring that up to see, if that's the case, if it's, guaranteed that the residents won't be able to see that sign. Additionally, with the lighting, the bay, I believe, it's going to be open 24/7 for the self-serve car wash. What are the bay lights going to be like in there? How bright are they going to be? Are they going to be set up on like a sensor? So if there's no cars in there, will the lighting go off? Just curious about that. That's about all for the lighting. As far as the noise from the vacuums, I see they did a study, which is good. And to be honest with you, it's so loud there with the highway and, during the day, and, everything else going on, jets flying over it. Really, the noise, I'm just used to it by now. However, at night, it does quiet down a lot, and especially 10, 11, and 12 o'clock, it's pretty quiet. I would hate to have to hear those vacuums or, loud pumps or, sprayers going off, all hours of the night when it is quiet. And especially, Sundays too is kind of quiet, but, I know we probably can't do much about that. So I don't know if it's going to be closed at a certain hour. I believe it was the automatic machines were going to close at a certain hour, and the self-service was going to be open all night. But anyways, I just wanted to bring that up about that. And my last thing was looking over the plans. It looked like they were doing some maybe temporary fencing and curbing along the back side of the car wash for now. I just thought maybe because they are building it, maybe that should be more permanent, versus some kind of temporary fencing and curbing. And I also thought that it would be nice if maybe they could plant some shade trees along the back side of that car wash, some trees that kind of get big. It might be good for both the car wash and the residents. It would provide some shade for people, for the building itself, and maybe people that drive their cars off. And, over time, maybe the residents on 7800 South, it would provide a barrier, so we wouldn't even have to look at that down there. So
Sure.
anyways, that's all I had. There's probably some things I missed, but those were my main points. I'm sure other people will bring stuff up. So that's the only comments I had. Thank you.
Okay, we appreciate it. What we'll do is during the conditional use permit portion of the meeting with the developer, I think the commission has some of the same questions. So I think you'll get your answers to that.
Okay, great. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye. Okay, Kim.
All right, next one will be Amy Mitchell.
Okay. Okay, are you on, Amy? Amy, are you there? Amy, it looks like your mute is on. There you go.
I just changed that.
There you go.
Okay. So I'm on mine and I can see Rob.
So you should
Oh, there I
have
am.
a bar across the top. Everybody's here.
Okay. I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So Amy Mitchell, 1923 Deer Run Drive. I'm going to read through what I had emailed to everyone.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, I have it's coming back and forth. Let me turn this down. Okay. Okay, I've looked through the
Okay.
packet and I have several concerns.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm getting back. Okay, that'll make it better. I've looked through the packet and I have several concerns in regards to Morty's Car Wash. In looking through the documents, there are several times it refers to the car wash in having 3 self-serve bays and 3 automatic bays. Yet in the drawings, it shows 4 self-serve bays and 3 automatic. I hope this is just an oversight, but I think it needs to be corrected before moving forward so there is no confusion when it comes time for it to be built that they are putting in 4 because that's what it was approved. We need to make sure that this is approved, and we need to make sure that what is approved and what is being built are the same thing. I'm also wondering how the city plans to address the parking issue at Maverick along the south side by the dump station with having an access to the car wash in the same area. I brought up that concern several months ago, and now that summer's here and Maverick is getting more and more busy, I think we need to find a solution before plans are approved. We already see trucks with trailers and RVs lining up to use the dump station and delivery trucks all trying to find a spot behind the store. We encountered that problem just this last weekend. There were 2 semis, one on right next to the Maverick and one on the other side right along the curb. And we couldn't get through with our truck and trailer. We had to wait until one of them moved. Adding an entrance to the car wash seems to be a huge mistake to me. Please reconsider allowing the entrance to be placed there. I think they should have their own entrance and exit, not piggyback off of a busy gas station that already sees a lot of traffic. I think it should be a standalone business. I see in the plan some of it is waiting for the next part of the development to come in, and I don't think that we should wait for that because that could be 6 months or whatever. I think the car wash needs to stand alone by themselves right now. Lastly, I would like some clarification to the type of fencing being put in between there and the school. I would hope that it's not just a chain link fence, but something that can not only buffer the sound, but also provide privacy to protect students from whoever might use the car wash. I personally have kids that go to that school and are out on that field, and I would like to know that they are safe from whoever is in the car wash. We have one good chance to have this look its very best, and this is what will greet people when they enter the city. I hope that the sign is not so big and bright that it's seen from miles away and at night, but that it's tastefully done and inviting. Our nearby residents who have to look at it all the time deserve to have it be appealing as well. I want to know about the subdivision and warehouse, if those are getting addressed at this time. And I was kind of confused if it's not getting addressed, why it was included in the packet. I'm also wondering about the landscaping. I didn't see any landscaping for this for the car wash. So I wondered how that was getting addressed. Also, I would like to read a little bit of comments from Corinne Johnson. She's out of town and not able to join us tonight. Am I okay to do that?
Sure.
Okay. So Corinne Johnson, her address is 8020 South, 2500 East. Her concern is to address the end of the building on the east side. There's no rendering in the drawings. And we asked them to make it nicer with a feature or upgraded materials, since this is the first thing that you'll see coming into town. And so we wondered if that was going to be addressed. She also asked about the landscaping because we didn't see anything in the packet about that. So
Okay.
those were her comments.
Okay. All right. Very good. I can tell you we're only talking about the car wash, not the rest of the subdivision. So
I just wondered why it was included.
oversight. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, the agenda is what's really talked about. So that's the one we're sticking
Okay.
on. Perfect.
Great.
Well, thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, we have one more, Paul Sturm,
Okay.
meeting him now.
Thanks. Paul, are you there? Hello, Paul.
Hello. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, there he is.
Okay, good. Finally.
There you go.
First time through on this. Well, sort of.
It looks
second,
like you
but
got some help going there.
Of course I have to have help going.
All right.
I don't have all this stuff at my house. Anyway, I sent my packet to the public comments. You all should have it. It's quite extensive. And what I would like to do is just hit highlights down it because it's too long to even go through the whole thing.
Okay.
On the first page, packet page 7, Brandon Jones letter of 22 May 20. There's sections under plat, sections E1, and that has to do with the easements from the pipeline companies and the storm drain assessment. My question is, have Brandon's concerns been addressed? If not, where and when will they be addressed prior to the plat approval? Packet page 9, Barry Burton's letter of 22 May 20. And it's under section PL3. Standards for approval are found in the South Weber City Code. My questions regarding the traffic impact study. The report states that there will be no change in level of service on 2700 East. Yet there will be increased traffic on 2700 East by the very presence of the car wash. How can there be no change in LOS with the possibility of an additional 100+ cars per day? Question 2. Why is the level of traffic at the intersection of 2700 East and South Weber Drive of issue or concern when it's over 50 yards away from any exit? The next question I have is, Reeves and Associates is being paid by the developer. Has any independent assessment of the relative values of their analyses been done? Next, packet pages 11 and 12, Brandon Jones letter of 22 May 20. Questions. Number 1, under the intro paragraph, Reeves and Associates apparently formally submitted a package to South Weber City on 20 May, as indicated in Brandon's letter. Yet both Barry and Brandon's letter are dated 22 May. The material provided on 20 May 20 is approximately 55 pages of text and drawings, some revised. How did both Barry and Brandon provide their responses in the intervening 1 to 2 days? Question 2 under studies and evaluation. Bullet number 2, traffic impact study. What is the source of the quote, LOS of existing accesses and roadways are projected to remain the same post-construction? My question is this from the Reeves and Associates report? How can that be true since the additional entrance exit as shown on the Reeves and Associates drawings? There won't there be an additional 100+ cars per day using these 2700 East access points and the road itself? The next has to do with bullet number 3, which is a photometric light study. Jeff Edding covered a lot of that. And I was wondering how you could say that there's no detrimental impacts to the surrounding properties. If the LED lights are moving, flashing design, this will be a constant distraction / annoyance to this neighborhood. The developer can say what they want, but how will South Weber City hold them to that agreement? Was informed that a similar situation happened in the Maverick sign. Maverick on their very tall pole. Maverick agreed it would not flash, and yet within a week or so, they had it flashing and nothing was done. How can South Weber City enforce any light annoyance, either from the signs or the bay. Under bullet number 4, sound study. I didn't include this in my packet, but this is an additional question. Who paid for the sound study? According to the letter that was written, it was not very indicative of who actually paid for it. It says that it was as requested by South Weber City Planning Commission and City Council. And Supreme Car Wash Specials and Distributors completed the study. Still, it was not identified in their letter who it was actually should have been addressed to. Then the next question here, what recourse does South Weber City have if the sound study performed by Supreme West, pages 48 to 49 of the packet, turns out to be inaccurate? It appears that their calculations are based upon static conditions. What happens when the frequent wind in that area carries the sound to the adjacent neighborhoods? Also, it is my understanding the hours of operation for the automatic car wash bay will be restricted. Will the self-serve bays also be regulated? There is a potential for noise, crowds, etc. at that location, as is seen at other car wash locations. Has this been considered? Continuing with Brandon's letter under general. The South Weber Water Improvement District approval letter. A will serve letter has been received, and this is a conditional letter. When will the final letter be signed? And then back to the petroleum lines, the same question there. When will those agreements be signed? Because my question is, well, I have two. Without this approval, how can South Weber City approve with any approval of this project? And the second is, will not the lack of approval completely scuttle the car wash as it presently sits because the entrances to the bays directly crosses the pipeline right of way? And my final observation is on the packet, page 19, Reeve and Associates drawing sheet 4 of 9. There does not appear to be sufficient distance between the exits on the automatic car wash and the southeast property line for a long vehicle to turn to safely exit the premises. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
You bet.
And that's all we have.
Okay, seeing that there is no more public comment, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 3, approval of the consent agenda of April 9th, 2020. As the Plan Commission has had a chance to review that, and if so, I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda for the 9th of April.
I didn't have any changes, so I don't know if anybody else had any changes. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 9th, 2020.
I'll second it.
Wes seconded it. All in favor say aye.
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 It looks like all ayes, none opposed, Michelle. The next item on the agenda is item number 4, the final subdivision plat for South Weber Transition Subdivision, 1 lot and remainder parcel, approximately 4.2 acres, zoned CH, located approximately 7700 South, 2700 East on parcel number 13-034-0065. Dan Murray is the applicant on that. As you may recall, we worked through that, and this is the parcel that is dividing off the car wash portion with the rest of that long parcel behind the Maverick. Is there any questions amongst the Plan Commission?
Yes.
Okay, shoot it at us, Tim.
So question maybe for Barry and Brandon. So they're doing just a one lot subdivision now, correct?
That's correct.
And so I know we mentioned, I'm bringing up the old plat and I want the new plat. There's going to be a remainder parcel, but that remainder parcel is really not part of this subdivision request currently, right?
That's correct. This is just for the one parcel.
Yeah.
The one lot.
Now we still have an opportunity because it is a subdivision, and so the remainder parcel is part of a subdivision, even though it's not part of the plat. Are there any improvements? Because we could require any improvements on the remainder parcel at this time, if we wanted those to be done or escrowed. Just a thought. So,
I would prefer to see those addressed when they plat those areas, especially along 7800, not knowing what is going to be proposed there at this point in time. I require now.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I'm mostly fine with that, although you could escrow, for those things. But I just want to make sure there's an opportunity, and you may not have that opportunity if they never develop any more than just this. So just a thought.
That's true. However, I feel like, I would recommend that we wait until we know what's being proposed there. That's my feeling.
Okay.
I agree. I think in situations like this where it's commercial property, there are just too many options or possibilities that could occur on those properties for us to know at this time what the appropriate improvements need to be. So in my opinion, it's better just to leave it be until we do know.
Okay. Wes, it looks like you're stepping up to the plate.
Just a little bit of clarification. We are only looking at the one lot. Is that correct? For the subdivision plat? Or are we looking at
That's
that
correct.
lot and the remainder, but we're only going to address the one lot?
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, the plat is just for the one lot.
Okay.
It shows remainder parcel because the owner is still the owner of what's left.
Right. Okay.
But we're only addressing one lot, subdivided lot.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody?
Dan Murray is joining now.
Okay, thanks.
Rob, if I could just point out, you mentioned in your summary that it is currently ZH, which is true, but the applicant requested a rezone to C, which the Planning Commission at the last meeting did recommend that rezone, but it has not yet gone to the City Council. So just that will go according to whatever is recommended here.
Okay, so as part of this fund, do we got to have it? Make sure it's
Does the car
commercial?
wash?
Well, you've already made the recommendation on passing that on to the City Council, so I don't think there's any action necessary on the rezone.
Okay.
No, but can I just bring up one point I think is kind of simple. The original legal description for the rezone, I did not mention this in my memo, so I'll just bring it up. I don't think it's real critical. The original legal description does not match exactly the lot legal description as it sits. Lot was made just slightly bigger. What should move forward is whatever was in the legal description for the rezone request. From a mapping perspective, I would prefer to see it match the lot. That's just my preference. And if the applicant is okay with that and the planning commission wants to simply just make that the rezone match the lot line, I think it could just move forward that way so that it when it's presented to the city council, they match. So I would prefer to see it that way, just so that when we change the mapping, it will run along the lot line rather than just short of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Scott, you're on here. Do you have any concerns with doing that? Or Dan?
I don't, as long as in the end it shows on the plat and on city record that it's the correct lot size, then I don't have any concern with that at all.
So
Dan's the actual applicant here. We ought to hear from him. If I see he's connecting, this looks like it's still connecting to audio. I don't know if he's having trouble. Can you hear us, Dan?
He did tell me earlier that he was watching it and just received my link to connect. So yeah, it looks like something's happening with his connection.
Okay.
oh, maybe he's on now. Dan, can you hear us? Looks like you're still muted.
Rob, can I make one comment?
Yes, sir.
So I think some of the confusion maybe on the public comment portion, and maybe what Tim might have been referring to too, is when you look at the car wash plan, it looks like the lot increased to include the driveway. But then on the full site plan, that lot didn't increase in size. And that's the legal description you're referring to, I believe, that needs to be changed. And I think the plans need to be updated.
I don't know what plans, they submitted that plan that shows the 3 different uses. I don't know why they resubmitted that one. That was not necessary and is kind of confusing things. All of the plans, the site plan and the landscaping plan and the grading plan and all that stuff that has come in since shows the correct boundary. It matches the lot line as it's been expanded out. So that one drawing is kind of confusing, but everything else we've seen matches.
Yeah, I went through and I read the legal and it matched.
Okay.
Sounds like Dan's on that one unmuted.
Okay.
Dan,
Dan,
did you hear my explanation about how the legal description for the rezone went with the first application, but not necessarily has been updated to this new lot line? Do you have any concerns with the rezone matching lot 1?
Okay, I'm not sure I'm following it, Brandon, but based on Barry's comments, I thought he was just explaining that they are now all consistent and do match. Is that not true?
The plans do. Go ahead, Barry.
The plans all match the lot line of lot 1. What does not match, Dan, is the description that was originally submitted for the rezone from CH to C. That was based on the first submittal where there were 3 different uses there. And then your lot 1 expanded to include the entire driveway and drive width on lot 1 after the other use went away. So, but the rezone description did not change. And that's what Brian's referring to. And we just, it would be much cleaner for the city and everybody wouldn't look odd on maps and so forth if the rezone actually matched the lot line.
And we want it to match, Barry. Yeah.
Okay. That was our concern. You're the applicant. We wanted to get you're okay with making those match.
Yes. So if we could,
if that's your request, then we can just, if that's your request, Dan, then we can just move word matching.
Okay.
Okay,
And we can make that part of our motion.
sure.
Yep.
So,
can
if there
point of
aren't any more questions, oh, hang on,
Can I just get a point of clarification on one thing?
sure.
The current zoning is not CH, correct? That is going to the city council to be approved?
The current
Correct.
zoning is CH.
It is CH, and they're applying to rezone to C.
Okay, I think that's where I got confused. I guess, is there any issue with not having the proposed zoning approved before going ahead and approving a subdivision plat?
Well, the subdivision plat itself isn't dependent on the zoning in any way. It's only the use of lot 1 as a car wash where that becomes an issue. So as far as the subdivision approval goes, no issue.
Okay, so I guess that I should be a little bit more pointed in the question and just ask, what if the city council doesn't approve the rezone?
Well, I think that won't matter to the subdivision. It will matter in the next issue as far as the car wash goes. And we can talk about that when we get to the car wash, where it'll make a difference.
Okay, I just want to create a situation where we approve a subdivision plat. I recommend approval of a subdivision plat, and we don't have a concurrence from the city council yet, and put them in a position where the developers come so far down the line, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
I just see that as kind of a
Yeah.
bottleneck.
I
mean,
understand.
I don't
Let me
want to put
just-
this, go ahead, Barry, go ahead.
Let me just reiterate that the subdividing of the land is not dependent on rezoning in any way.
Barry, would that be brought up under the next item?
Certainly will be.
Okay.
Okay. If there are no more questions from the Plan Commission, I look for a motion.
Rob, sorry.
Yes, sir, please, Tim.
I wanted to address, I just want to ask Brandon, I mean, he had 2 items on this subdivision, and I just want to address those 2 items just to make sure the owner understands what Brandon's requesting. Have they read those, and does that seem something that they can accomplish?
Brandon, can you reiterate those? Because I missed the first part of this, and I don't have the detail from Kim.
What detail?
I don't have the staff recommendations, Kim.
They were emailed to everybody. Scott got them. I emailed them to you as well. I don't know. I can re-email them to you if you like.
If you would, that would be great.
Dan, though, I have no problem. I can just, it's really short. I could read it just quick. Comment is that it is our understanding that there are 2 petroleum line easements, one for Phillips 66, also known as Minor Pipeline, and one for Holly Energy, which was formerly the Plains All-American Pipeline, which was formerly the Rocky Mountain Pipeline. Item A says the final plat needs to be submitted to both companies for their review. An approval letter from both companies is needed to verify that the easements have been shown correctly. Item B, a signature line is needed in the easement approval block for both companies. And then my second comment, the new storm drain easement needs additional information in order to clearly describe its location. For example, dimensions along the boundary, hatching, dimensions of width, etc. On the plat, there's just a line on that storm drain easement with an arrow to that line that just says storm drain easement, but it's not side of the line the easement is on. So that's all I mean by that. So basically, it's just letters and a little more clarification as to the drawing on the plat, making the easement, the storm drain easement clearly shown.
Okay, my only issue, Brandon, is that I think, did you also say that you would like them to sign the plat?
Yes, they have a signature on there for verification of the correctness of the easement.
That's a little atypical, isn't it? I'd never seen.
No, we've actually had Rivas put together similar plats in several different areas, especially like with Rocky Mountain Power. We wanted to give them the opportunity to sign. It's a protection for you as well, so that you can have a plat where they've signed.
Yeah.
That says, that basically the easement's correct.
Okay. Okay. I mean, Nate's been in touch with them.
Yeah, and I can provide you a brief update there. So
Okay.
Nate and I have both been in touch with them. They're all in agreement. They are ready to sign on Friday. They'll be doing the potholing to ensure specific locations. They'll be on site with our folks there doing the potholing to ensure that its exact locations are there. Once that's done on Friday, they'll sign the letter that they basically already have drafted and submit that. All indications coming back have been positive and in agreement. They just want this final potholing location to be done first.
Well, that answers my question,
And that's
because that's
it.
a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a large request that Brandon has on his letter. So I just want to make sure that wasn't blindsiding you and you were prepared. So.
Yeah, thank you. Fully prepared for it, and they're positive and accepting of it.
Perfect.
Awesome. That's a big deal. Wow. I'm impressed.
They're not hard to work with. When we did the charter school, it wasn't too hard to work with them. So
great.
No, I just feel it's really important that as someone is where their easement currently exists, if someone's doing something to develop the ground, they need an opportunity to be able to look at it and say that, that what's being proposed is okay. That's all.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. I just know that's a large request that should be done. I just want to make sure the owner realized what they were being asked to do, and it sounds like they're all over it. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing else for me.
Is there anything else from the rest of the commission? Can we get a motion on the table?
Sure.
Way to go.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion to recommend final subdivision approval for South Weaver Transition subdivision, and subject to Barry's review dated May 13th, Barry Burton's review dated May 13th, 2020, and subject to Brandon Jones review dated May 22nd, 2020, and subject to the recommendation that the previous request for rezone from CH to C, the description be changed to match this current Lot 1 description.
That's what I had on my notes. Anybody else? If not, is there a second in the planning commission?
I'll second.
Okay, we'll give it to Gary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, Wes. Aye, Taylor, is that right?
Aye.
Aye, Gary. Aye, me. Aye, Tim.
Aye.
All right, there we go. I guess we're gonna have to roll call this to make this work. Sorry
Right.
about that.
Yeah.
So looks like it's approved to move forward. Next item on the agenda, let's talk about it, is the final site and improvement plans for South Weaver Transition Subdivision Lot 1, Morty's Car Wash. Mr. Scott Mortensen is the applicant, and he's on with us as well. So just so we're clear on that. Does the commission have any questions to start? And then I'll save mine for the end.
Well, I do have just maybe an initial question. Our agenda has a agenda item number 5 and then agenda item number 6. So are we?
I wondered that too. I know where you're going with that, Tim.
Yeah.
Why aren't
Yeah,
they
I'm trying to
together?
understand what we're reviewing right now. Are we reviewing the conditional use permit, or are we reviewing the final site and improvement plans?
Just for a point of clarification, in the code, it requires a site plan approval for commercial uses.
Oh, that's where I'm getting confused. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's related to the conditional use permit, but you need to specifically address the site plan improvements.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, in the conditional use, you're addressing the use itself as a car wash, basically. And then you're addressing in the site plan and architectural review, you're addressing everything else.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. That's different.
So you have a question, Tim, or what
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what our motion will be, whether it's, I guess we have to address the use in one motion, and that's the conditional use permit. And then we address everything else, just exactly what Barry said.
Okay.
In the other motion. So we'll have 2 separate motions.
So I guess one of the first questions that come up, is it 4 and 3 bays or 3 and 3 bays?
That was an error on my part. I don't know how I did that. I knew it was 4 bays and 3 bays, but somehow when I wrote it out, I wrote 3 and 3. So I apologize for that. It is 4 and 3.
Okay.
And it has always been 4 and 3.
Well, that's what I
going
thought.
to be 4 automated and 3 self-service?
No. Yeah,
The other way around.
Other way around.
The opposite.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 3 self-service and 4 automated bays.
No.
No.
It's 3
4
automated,
self-service.
4 self-serve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So glad that's clarified. I think that was something that even the citizens had questions about. One of the things that was brought up as well. I'm sorry, I'm taking off if that's okay.
Go ahead. We probably have the same questions.
So the other question was the entrance from the Maverick property onto this property using the same entrance. I'm looking at that and I'm okay with that, considering looking at that property, that's where you would put a entrance to 2700, the frontage road. No, I'm sorry, it's not 2700. It's what number is it?
It is 2700.
Oh, 2700. Okay. All the pipeline stuff is right there, and you couldn't really do that anyway. And I believe we have a letter from Maverick stating that they would grant an access easement there. So I'm good with that.
The applicants actually submitted a signed easement, so they already have that easement in hand.
Correct.
And I think Brandon can jump in here, but I think an engineer, particularly a traffic engineer, would look at that situation and say it's going to be much safer to have one entrance that's shared than to have 2 that are right next to each other on 2700 East. That would present even more problems.
Correct. Okay.
Yes, that is true. It does create for some congestion a little bit, or the potential for some congestion at the entrance, especially as they're deciding whether they're going to the car wash or over to Maverick. But that is better than having 2 entrances on the road and having that same congestion or confusion out on the road where people, you know, some are going to the other entrance. That creates for a much worse situation to have two entrances right next to each other.
Okay. I agree with that. I certainly understand. And I think one of the other issues that was brought up was about the dump station, and I'm just not sure how that's Mr. Mortensen's problem. It seems like that's Maverick's problem to figure out the traffic flow for their dump station. And I know the dump station is way down in the center of the building, so it's not even next to the entrance here. So I think that's that for me, that checks off that will be fine. The next thing I'm seeing here is fencing. I'm okay with the fencing. I don't know what the rest of the planning commission feels about with that. I think the existing fencing is there. It meets the code if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Brandon?
The fencing that's up meets the code.
Okay.
Is that true, Barry? Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah, they're not required to have, there is no code requirement for a fence there because it's not a residential property that's adjacent. Of course, it makes sense to have a fence there, but it's really for safety of the children at the school as well as people on the car wash site, just to prevent cross movement there. I don't have any issues with that fence either.
But and some kind of a privacy fence. I'm not sure that makes much sense, just to have a privacy fence on the car wash side when the Maverick side is a chain link. And so I'm really okay with just the chain link that's there.
So I did have a question on buffer yards. I know we've been back and forth on this, and I think it's because we've been back and forth so many times that I'm confused. But is there going to be a buffer yard requirement to either the school side or, I know we don't know the projected land use to the south, but at least in between the school and the car wash itself?
There is no buffer yard requirement here because of the zoning. That buffer yard requirement is between commercial and residential zoning. That's not the case here.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for clarifying it. I know we've been back and forth so many times on it. So I was wondering, and I just didn't have a chance to look at it yet. Thanks.
Okay.
The next thing I have on my list here is the signage. They meet the coding for the code for our city for signs. It seems like it's being put in a pretty good spot to minimize impact to the residences in the other. It's not much bigger than a 4x8 sheet of plywood. I mean, it's a little bit bigger, but it's not much bigger than that, the way I'm looking at those measurements. And so I guess my question particularly is, and maybe this is to Scott, is it just a static light sign or is it flashing LED, anything like that?
Yeah, good question. So you're right, we are under the code and actually went smaller than needed so that it would be actually shorter than by quite a bit shorter than our building. It does have, so basically half of the sign itself, there's the monument pole and then the sign itself. Half of that is just the logo. It's lit, it's not changing colors. It's a lit sign that says Morty's Car Wash. The other half at the very bottom of that overall sign is an LED display. And basically it's an LED display to be able to tell people of the specials that are there or occurrences in, at the car wash, things like that. So yes, it'll display wording, but it's not, I mean, would you consider it flashing or scrolling, or I guess you would, yeah.
Okay.
But smaller and lower.
Okay. Does that answer everybody's questions on the commission?
I know there was one comment that I read. I don't remember now who said it, but that they didn't feel like the sign was very attractive. I don't know, Scott, if you have any response to that.
I think it's actually, I think they've done a really good job of it at the bottom. you know, it's matching colors with the building itself. It's very sleek. It's not a protrusion into the road or into the sky either. So I think they've actually done a really good job. It's got a top deck and a bottom deck as we show it right now.
Okay.
I have a question about the light pollution coming from the sign. I was viewing the photovoltaic plan, and it didn't look like there was any analysis done on the LEDs. Is that the case?
Yeah. Yeah, it's done on the building itself, not on the sign.
Yeah, from what I can see from the plan, I think the light pollution is minimal. You know, we have the dark skies requirement for all the lighting. I guess I have a tough time with the LED lights so close to roads. I know the city has one next to Maverick. Just when you have any kind of water on the road, the glare coming off those LEDs can be quite distracting. And that would be the only concern. I'm just not a fan of the LED lights so close to a road, especially the scrolling ones. I had issue when Highmark put theirs in. It can be bright, and the colors emitting from those lights can be quite a distraction. So I know it meets code and everything else. I know it's one of those things that we don't have a lot of stand on, but maybe in future iterations of our sign ordinance, that's something we look at. The light emissions coming off of LED lights for signs.
Okay.
I mean, LEDs have different lumens, and we could request, you know, a smaller lumen or something on the LEDs. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough ask, I know, especially since we don't really have anything definitive in our code that dissuades it or stipulates it. May condition or part of the conditional use approval, but I maybe get a sense from you all. What are your thoughts on the LED signs being so close to the roadway and the light pollution associated with them?
I don't think it's, you know, issue's not the roadway, but the local residents and the brightness that they receive from the sign. Perhaps that if there's only a one-sided sign towards Maverick and towards any business or any vehicular traffic in the South Weaver Drive or along 89, and no lights on the backside of it, that would be reflected into the residents there.
So I think the position sign actually precludes being visible by any of the residents. You know, it's hard to tell without, you know, an overall view of the area with the sign in place. But I don't think a lot of people will see it. I guess my concern is if you flash all those LEDs at a bright white. I know when Highmark flashes certain images, it is really, really bright, to a point where it is hard to see the road. And this is just me speaking, of course, but
Do you see that with a pole sign or with a monument sign? Is it, I've never noted that, but.
So, and I was gonna ask the question, the LEDs will not be on the actual pole mounted sign, it will be on the monument, correct?
That's right.
So I know it'll be a little bit closer to the ground and everything else. It's the same issue. I'm not sure how many of you guys experienced this, where you're on I-15 and some of those LED billboard signs flash a bright white. And if you have any kind of moisture on the road, it is extremely hard to see, and your night vision needs to adjust. And those are just, you know, my concerns. Maybe one recommendation is, you know, the colors that you use in your advertisements. I don't know if that would be something that we could look at addressing, that they be, you know, during the times of, I guess at night, that they not be displayed in bright whites. That maybe there be a tone associated with nighttime.
Dimmer.
Yep.
I'm wondering if we're talking about the same thing though, a little bit. Taylor, I mean, you're talking about I don't know what by what billboard, and this is a small little sign. I'm not sure you're going to get the same blinding of it.
Dimensions to the LED sign, because I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's on there. So it's, let's see, 3 feet by, it's 33 total square feet, the LED portion. So 3 feet by 10 feet.
3 feet by 10 feet.
I mean, I don't want to discount your concern, Taylor, but I mean, because when the Maverick sign, or excuse me, when the Highmark sign went up, I mean, people call me up, what is this, Vegas? I can't believe it, all those lights, you know? And then Maverick showed up and then that all went away real fast. But so I don't want to discount what you're saying, but I'm not sure that the sign of the size of this sign is going to create a blindness that you're speaking of. But of course, I won't claim to be a sign expert either. But
yeah, it's hard to make a decision based upon the fact that we didn't have some kind of assessment in the photometric plan that gave us an indication of how much light that was emit. So I know that's all area lighting and lighting on the building itself, but there is definitely light being emitted from even a 3 by 10 foot sign.
No, I appreciate what you're saying. But you know, again, I'm not a lighting expert or sign expert, but I'm not sure that the size of this being so much smaller will be as blinding as other signs around are.
And I agree. I think with the placement of it too, they've done a good job of shielding at least the tall sign from the residents, and you know, hopefully the residents won't see that light that they get from the other lights.
Okay. Any other more questions about the lighting?
We need to address this in the conditional use permit as part of that process.
Things for the conditional use, I want to reserve for things like hours of operation and stuff like this. I'd like to stick to just what's on the drawings.
So Rob, can I shift gears for a second?
Yeah, please, Gary.
So moving to the landscape plan, I'm looking at page 28, and I just want to verify. It looks like the property to the east end will just be turf, and then there's some vegetation, trees and shrubs along the north and west side. And am I reading that correctly?
That's the way I'm seeing it.
Well, they have a kind of a xeriscape design where there isn't much. I mean, it's mostly, there's a lot of rock mulch, you know, decorative rock that's used in there. They've got a pattern set forth there. They have, the only place there's any sod is on the park strip. And then they've got trees in various locations and shrubs and so forth. I thought it was a pretty decent design.
Oh, I do too. I just want to make sure that what we see on the drawings is what we're going to see on the ground.
Well, let me just bring this up. I'm a little concerned about, they show some plantings along the back of the property that cross the pipeline easements. Those, what they're proposing to put in there right now are kind of a large shrub. They're not trees. I doubt that the pipeline companies would allow trees to be planted in there anyway. I'm a little concerned that they will even allow the large shrubs. That might change based on what they say.
Okay, and that's totally understandable. So thanks, Barry.
I think the understanding there is if the pipeline company needs to go in and do some work, they're going to take the trees out.
Yeah.
Well, you might not even allow them to plant them.
Yeah, they wouldn't allow them.
I think that's a possibility. I mean, I would leave them on the plan for now, but because, you know, it's a nice addition to the property if they can be planted there, but it's a possibility that they may not be allowed.
Okay.
How deep is the pipeline in that area?
That's what they're potholing on Friday, I believe.
That's right.
So how deep?
They will be potholing the location. They're going to be digging up the location to be sure.
And I would hope, you know,
In other words, we don't know right now exactly how deep they are.
And I would hope that if we, you know, if the pipeline company was requesting not to have the current shrubs that are being presented, that we could still ask the developers to ask them to still allow some sort of a shrub over their pipeline, you know, something small that's, you know.
Well, yeah, there's certainly things that could be planted in there, decorative grasses and all kinds of things that could go in there, would have no deep roots at all.
Right. And I think what they propose shouldn't be a problem for the pipeline.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So they're not putting any trees.
Yeah, the root structure for forsythias is pretty minimal, but you never know.
Right. Okay.
I guess we do have trees out on the front next to the road. There are some trees on the corner.
Yeah,
Those
there are trees on site. They're of course planted so that they don't block their signs and so forth, but there are trees on there.
Yeah, that are on that pipeline.
Oh, on the pipeline. Oh, that's true. That's
on that front corner, that northeast
That's
corner.
a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, there's just shrubs across the back, but that northeast corner has a couple of trees in it. So
yeah, you're right.
And I'm hopeful that we can just get the pipeline company to sign off. And I'd say it's pretty rare that you would ever have an issue that they would even need to dig it up. But the owner will just need to restore it.
Okay. I can't imagine why he wouldn't want to restore it, but you're right. Never know with, you know, what happens. Next concern, anybody? I'm looking at my notes here. I know a lot of people brought up the fact that the turning radius isn't good enough. I'm not a turning radius professional, so I don't have a clue. I assume it is. So I just don't. If you're going to make a claim, please bring evidence. And so I haven't seen any evidence that it is not. So if there's a concern among the planning commission on the turning radius once it comes out, I'd like to know about it. But
they did show on one of those plans, they showed the turning radius of some fairly large vehicles in there. I think they'll work according to those plans. And as I look at it, I drive, you know, I have an RV. I don't think I'd have any trouble negotiating any of that.
okay, I like it looked right to me. But I know some people didn't think it had enough, and I just wanted to make sure that we did bring that up and say, hey, we think it's going to be fine.
I mean, the larger vehicles would use the self-serve, and those have there's a lot more area for the radius turns.
Right.
Where the automatic, you put a large vehicle through those. They have to be smaller vehicles, and that's where you have your smaller tolerances there, but you'll have smaller vehicles also.
Right.
It didn't seem to be an issue. And I saw their examples that they showed on their diagrams, and it seemed like they worked.
I agree, Tim, I agree. So, okay. Anything else with the site plan? I know some of the sewer issues with Brandon's comments were coming up, and I think those are being addressed, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Brandon?
Yeah, that's correct. The sewer has capacity. Yes.
So we're good. Okay.
And I think there were some concerns that were brought up specifically about the types of things that would be discharged, chemicals and whatnot, to the sewer. Their plans and what they discharged, I think, was specifically taken to Central Weaver Sewer District, and they sent a letter responding that they can handle what is being discharged. So I think that's been addressed.
Okay. I know that that Dan Murray has the will serve letter from the water district, the secondary water district, South Weaver Water Improvement District, and so is that still the case, Dan?
That is correct. Yeah.
You got it for the whole thing, right?
Yeah. All of the 4 acres, we've delivered the water shares that were required for all 4 acres. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and so you did get a will serve from Landy at the time, I believe. So
Correct.
yeah, so I know that's been settled.
Well, the will serve has been given. My concern was that they need to actually give an approval letter to the connection, whatever line, whatever that they're proposing to connect to. That's the letter that I feel like is still remaining.
Oh, okay. So a connection letter.
Well, I'm calling it an approval letter. Basically, that they've seen the plans and they're approving of the actual connection. I'm not familiar with where the secondary main feed is in the area. If they're going to try to connect off of the back side of the charter school, or if it's out on the road.
No,
plans
that's,
just
hey, Brandon,
so,
yes. It runs right along the charter school property line.
That very south line, if I recall.
Right.
Well,
I
and
know that there's a line
it runs
there.
north.
I just didn't know if that's the one they're connecting to.
Yeah, runs north along the east fence of the charter school.
Okay. Because it picks up the Maverick too, isn't that correct?
It is correct.
Okay.
Okay. So that's I'm just needing a letter. That's my comment, is I feel like we need a letter that says that how they're proposing to connect is okay.
Okay.
And so just as an FYI, this is where I might need your help a little, Brandon, or someone. I've reached out to them 3 times, stopped by the office multiple times. I've emailed them and called and haven't received a response yet. I've received one response that says, as soon as you pay your connection fee, which I'm happy to pay, we can, give you the letter. And so I've stopped by, I've called and emailed and haven't gotten a response. So I don't know if there's a better way to connect with them.
Scott, so they're very part-time, and I think Landy resigned, and so they're kind of in a, I don't know what's the word,
Yeah,
but
transition phase.
Yeah, but reach out to Jan Ukenna. She's probably your best bet.
Okay, and I have whatever the number they gave me, but I don't have Jan's contact information.
I can do that for you, Scott. I'll
That'd be great.
you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm certainly not trying to make it difficult. I just want to make sure that, again, same thing as the pipeline, that they have the opportunity to make any comments if they feel like there's any needed there. So, but I have in the past have had similar comments from other developers that it's difficult sometimes to get that approval letter from them. So I just want to make sure they have an opportunity.
We're happy to give it to you. We approve. We're happy to give it to you. You just need to pay the fee. And so, like I said, I've tried, but I'll reach out to her tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, if I can help, I'm happy to as well.
And that's all mentioned on Brandon's review.
Correct.
On that E2, I'm thinking.
E2 or E3?
E2 is the South Weaver water.
Yeah.
The next, I assume we've covered that ground. The next thing is, I guess this is pointed more to Blair. The city council is going to approve this to commercial. Am I correct? And why hasn't this been done? Because this was approved by us 3 months ago. Do you know why it's been in limbo?
I do not. I don't know why it was overlooked on other than just due to current circumstances, Dave, or it was overlooked to put on an agenda. Brandon, do you know why it wasn't on an agenda?
I think as I recall, I thought it was a request from the council somewhere along the way that these be brought forward together, the conditional use and the rezone be brought together to the council.
And that could be correct. I know that was a comment made at one time so that we could review it all at once.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I personally don't see a problem with it. So I don't think it's that big a deal. I know there's other questions and concerns, but I don't think it has to do with the zoning.
Okay.
We often submit rezones in conjunction with development, so I don't think that's unusual as far as the city council dealing with both the rezone and then the request for what we might recommend.
Well, and I know I really don't care how it gets to them. I just wondered because I mean we kind of did this a long time ago. I'd assume they'd have picked it up and moved it along. So I was just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So
that's a good question.
That's all I got on my list. I'm looking for the rest of the commission. They got something? Please.
I still have a couple questions.
Please.
One note, we did have elevations of all the sides, I know, of the building. So I know someone mentioned that they didn't see one of the sides, but they're all included in the plan and they're consistent with the front. And so it looked good. As far as the east, I think was mentioned, it's in the packet. So.
Hey, Tim, that was a question that I had too. It was a question to say, we have a colorized version that doesn't match what was submitted in this most recent packet. And I'm wondering if, I guess I'm a little confused on what we're approving because there was stuff that had survived from the initial concept plan in our packet today. And so are we approving the colors and schematics of the more gray toned elevations?
It's what's in your packet today for today. It was a complete packet. And I think, yeah, that's the one with the gray tones.
Yeah, I don't see any other request. Was
so
there
in the packet? Yeah, there is. So I got my packet off the website. And so this is what the citizens are seeing, right? So there's one schematic and elevations that just show more of a beige tone concept. And there's no colorization of the different elevations. And what I have in front of me is the more gray tone concept. Doesn't show any other of the elevations. It just shows, I think, the south. I think it's the southwest elevation. So I need to know, I guess, is there a different packet out there? What is it that we're approving? Because there's two different versions in the packet.
The one that we received from
I emailed to everybody that's on our website under today's date, under packet.
So let me see if I can get you, a page number, but it's towards the bottom. Like it goes through everything that we talked about with the transition zone and the light industrial being incorporated into these different plats. Unfortunately, I don't have a page number for you, but it does in the packet that I have and the one that was shared with the citizens. It does look like there are two different color schemes.
Right.
Well,
page 14, 24, and 32 has the.
What you're seeing, I think I can clarify. What you're seeing with those red stamps on it, those are the WC3 fire approved stamped set.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they were included, because that is what was approved at, not so much as color, but for the plan set that was approved. The colors that they're going with, as far as the coloration, is the one that doesn't have a stamp on it. It's the most current elevation that they sent us.
I mean, I see what you're talking about, Taylor. It's got in those lower, we say lower, the later set of plan, or
yes,
last pages is more of a beige schematic.
So the ones on page 14 will be the ones that we will approve.
Whereas the, the
So it just,
first documents are more of a gray.
sorry to reiterate the concern, and it's just, I don't know what I don't know from the schematic, and what does the east elevation look like? Do they carry on the same color schematic? And I'd assume so, right? But
Well, what's your concern, Taylor?
just
You don't like the color?
No, not at all. That we just don't know what the other materials are going to be used on the other elevations, because we don't have other elevations portrayed in what we're approving tonight. And that was one of the concerns of our citizens. And I just would like to have that conversation to know if the colors and materials carry throughout the entire building, because we don't have the elevations for the other pieces.
So here's what I recommend, that if you like what you're seeing in the two elevations we're seeing, or one, that those same color schemes and products continue to wrap around the entire building.
Right. I think that would be something that we recommend to the developer, that before they go to the city council for approval, that they have those elevations available.
Sure.
Just to be clear, we do have those available. I actually thought they were submitted. I think I thought they were part of the packet, but I will forward them along. I have them pulled up right now.
Okay. I assume you had, and I just was
if you'd like, I can share my screen with you, so you can at least see it. But it totally, we have it.
It's okay. Like I say, I don't want you to pull a fast one on us and have one side be bright pink.
No.
Well, and you are the Taylor. You are the architectural review committee, and so you can choose. If they're not consistent with the code that we want.
You can choose pink, but
yeah,
I wouldn't be happy with it.
I saw the fact that you're matching what Mr. Murray did with Burley Burger and Little Caesars. So I mean, there is an aesthetic that carries over to the other side of the street. So I appreciated that, and I just listening to the comments that were submitted tonight, I just wanted to make sure that we were addressing a few of those. So that's why I bring it up. So
yeah, that's good. And we did make those changes to the the east side, as it, I think that one of the initial meetings was more so in discussion of, this is the entrance of our city. We want to make it look good. And so we feel the same way. I think it'll look really good every direction. But yeah, we added some cultured stone on that east side.
So the east side elevation, roughly, I mean, I know it's hard for me to ask you to describe that, but maybe you do want to share that east elevation, because on the more beige concept, it was a gray toned. I mean, it was just grayscale. You didn't provide, where certain materials were laying out, and it was a little confusing, and maybe that might be worth something sharing now, since
yeah, happy to do that. Let me just share my screen.
Thank you.
It's been disabled, but if Kim or Brandon, someone can enable my screen sharing, I'm happy to do that.
Let me see if I can make it possible for you to share. Give me just a minute. Try now and see if you can.
Sure. Yep. Okay, so here's the complete set. As you can see, this is kind of this is the top portion is the one that you see. We'll actually have windows in this section right here. And then the exterior elevation, this actually shows as north and south, but it's, let's see, I think this would be
east,
west. This would be west, this would be east. And then south side as they exit. Yep. So we have, I think it's a 4-foot stone, and then, the exterior above that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll send this to Kim as well.
Thank you, Scott.
Is there a name for that color scheme we want to call it? Maybe. Is that
Battleship gray.
And you just Taylor, you want to
there's
refer to
different-
it as the gray tones that were submitted with the?
No, they're calling it here, Tim, Synergy Storm Gray.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think there is a color schematic on, I think it's page 14 of the packet, something like that.
There's
Yeah,
a
that's
different
what they're called.
color. There's a different color selection in my packet, and I think in Taylor's packet. I have a beige color on page 28.
Yeah, it'll be up further, closer to the top of the packet.
But you got two colors in this packet, Kim.
Yeah, I know, because they stamped everything, so I included the full stamp set. I
Well,
didn't, sorry about that.
Even the fire review stamped has two different colors, Kim.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Okay.
Hey, Rob, can I ask one more
Yeah.
question going back to lights?
Please.
So the issue was brought up about the bay lighting, whether that will be on 24/7 or if there'll be some motion detector there specifically at the night. Scott, can you tell us a little bit more about what you envision for the bays?
Yeah, so they will be 24/7, and they'll be in the bays. There's an area of the bay that actually comes down, so it's not shining directly outward. And in the photometric analysis, it conveys both the interior and the exterior light. So they'll be on, but there is I guess, I don't know if I would call it an awning or whatever, but a wall that comes down to detract some of the light. But it's really a key part of, if you were to go in the winter at any time past 4:30, it's a key part of making sure that your car is washed, is just being able to have that lighting.
Okay. Thanks for addressing that.
Yep.
Are there any other questions in the Planning Commission?
I think I do.
Okay.
I'm just writing some notes, sorry. I want to understand the sound. It seemed like some of the sound studies were talking about the automatic portion. So I was trying to understand, are there two separate sound studies, one on the automatic car wash, and is there also a separate study of the vacuums?
Yes, that's right.
And then was that reviewed by Brandon as far as those sounds being compliant with the neighborhood, both the vacuum and I just kept seeing the automatic being referred to and not the vacuums. But I don't know if you can clarify that, Brandon.
Well, I've read through everything and based on what was submitted and the opinion of the Supreme, I forget the name of the one that did the study. But I didn't have any concerns with what they submitted. It sounded like some of the comments from the residents were looking for maybe a peer review or something. And I don't know if the commission feels like that needs to be done.
No, I wasn't asking for that. I was just trying to understand that they had reviewed both.
Yeah, there's not there, and Barry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not aware of anything in the code that dictates, a decibel level at a certain point, or addresses sound specifically. I believe this is actually the first sound study that we've required of a commercial use.
And I'll just add, I think they did a good job of kind of conveying on, it looks like it's page 2 near the end of, relating it to some other types of rustling leaves or, you know, a decibel of 10, busy street traffic of decibel of 70, and you can relate it to above. And clearly, you know, both the vacuums and the air dryers at, you know, I mean, the vacuums even at a 40 feet away, the dryers at 60 feet away start to get lower than most of those other examples. I think, honestly, I think you're going to hear more from 89, more from semis at Maverick than you'll hear from these.
What is the intent?
By the way,
as
I
far
think their
as-
analysis actually, sorry to interrupt, I think their analysis actually does not include the adjusting for the vacuums being in, or not the vacuums, but the air dryers being inside the bay, which detracts a lot of the sound, up to half. So anyway, that's another thing to consider.
So Scott, would you clarify for us what hours, what parts of the business you intend to operate?
Yeah, so really the intention is to operate 24/7 in all of them. In reality, it's that either area is going to be just as loud, just as quiet any time of the day. But the intention is there's an ability for anyone to wash their car at any time. Our volumes greatly decrease after 9 o'clock, but people can.
So the automatics would be open 24/7 as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably part of the issue. I'm not familiar with how this sounds, you know, 100 feet away or 200 feet away. I know when I'm near one of those things, they're pretty loud, the automatic ones. But I don't have any experience from, you know, a near distance and what kind of mitigation occurs or diminishing of the sound level occurs. And the vacuums, I know they can get pretty loud too. Is there any chance that you can shut down the automatic bays and the vacuums at a certain time?
I mean, there's always the ability. It would be our preference from a business perspective, part of the, you know, the ability to build it. The costs of building a car wash nowadays, part of that is just the ability to do it 24/7, especially considering, you know, other car washes. But
Rob, is this a discussion we should have in the conditional use permit rather than the site plan?
And I'd like it in the conditional use permit because that it's going to be a condition, I think. So I would like it back in the conditional use permit part.
Can I ask another question of Scott? I noticed that recently I'm starting to see dryers in the self-serve bays. Are you installing those as well?
yeah, we will. Yep. Those are, you know, nearly 10 times, I don't know exactly, but they are a lot quieter than any of the other dryers, not near the magnitude.
Yeah.
Somehow, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to ask a question too of Scott. And I know that this would change your site plan, but I just, from a sound perspective, I imagine if the vacuums were on the east side of the building and just flipped on the other side, you know, that the building itself would dampen that sound significantly. I would imagine. I don't know if the, you know, if the sound from vacuums versus dryers, if it really matters. Did you look at that at all? Would that be a consideration at all?
We actually did look at it from an architectural and from a site plan perspective. Aesthetically, flow, all of those things, it didn't make sense.
Okay.
That's why we put it in the back. From a city perspective, if you want a good look entering the city, that's not the way you want to go. But
right. I just wanted to. I wanted to give you the chance to maybe answer that question.
Yeah, we did look at it. It's hard because with the easement, there's not actually a lot of options with the vacuums and where to put them. With the petroleum easement, we can't place them in certain locations. So.
Right. It feels like to maybe mitigate some of the sound things, you would sacrifice on some of the maybe aesthetics and some other things. And so I guess the planning commission just needs to be aware of that.
Yeah, those limitations.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else from anybody?
Do you want to address some of the concerns that were brought up about the traffic study with this or with the use?
So let me just ask this, and because I'm not sure. This road is as big as South Weaver Drive in most places, and so the traffic study is about. Isn't it about capacity? It's about how many cars will be on it. Is that correct?
Well, the traffic study is addressing, it addresses increased traffic at the intersection of South Weaver Drive and 2700, as well as the entrances. And let me just preface my comments and just say, I would much prefer to have Nate Reeve on the call to respond to the traffic study. I'm just reviewing it. I didn't do the traffic study, but I reached out to Nate, and it sounds like he is out of town, so he can't respond to the questions directly. So my response to that would be, in looking at their study, as far as like level of service goes, a level of service is a range, and so the existing level of service, let me see if I can just pull up their summary page. On page 11, under this, in this study, it's section 5, conclusions and recommendations. The existing level of service is C, level of service C, at the intersection of South Weaver Drive and 2700. And after they, after the car wash goes in, the proposed level of service is also C. At the 2 access points, the level of service is B, and after is also B. And you'll see that the numbers actually don't increase much at all. Now, this is a study that's been stamped by a professional engineer. I didn't see anything in this study that would cause me to, they used the same traffic generation, that I would expect to see. I haven't run the numbers myself, and so I can't say that I disagree with anything that they've got in here. If the commission has any serious concerns, the only other thing I could recommend is that it has some kind of peer review. If you don't, maybe, I don't know how else to say it. If you don't trust the study, then you could have an independent person review this as well. I didn't see anything personally that caused me to have any concerns over the numbers that they have. So I do think that the width of 2700 is going to need to be increased. It has 3 lanes at the intersection, but it narrows down as you head south. I think that long-term that this road probably needs to have 3 lanes. However, this one particular use does not cause the need for it to go from 2 lanes to 3 lanes. I think what you're going to see is as it develops along that road, the aggregate result is going to be that it needs to be widened, but each individual use is not going to cause that. And so That's why you have impact fees. And that's the very purpose, is that the one individual user doesn't cause the need, but everybody coming online eventually causes the need for that. And so I didn't mention this in my review memo, but that's my answer to the concern, is that I do believe the road will need to be widened. How far? If it needs to go all the way to Deer Run, I'm not sure, but probably at least to 7800. But this one particular development would not require that. And so we would need to use our impact fees at some point to do that. The current study that our impact fees are based off of does not show widening on this road. However, we've had several proposals now along this road that give me some concern that needs to happen at some point in time. So my feeling is that once the general plan is updated and adopted, that we need to go back to our transportation impact fee study and update that. And that's where this would be addressed. That's a very long answer.
Question, what does our general plan update say about that road in the area? Is it sufficiently sized?
Well, the general plan doesn't address width.
I thought it did.
The general plan just talks about roads being collectors versus local.
We don't have a course width for being a collector versus a local residential?
Not all roads that are labeled as collectors are the same width. So it's more of a case by case, depending on the use.
The cumulative factor of one business and then two businesses, 3, 4, 6, is going to put a major impact on 2700 East there. And I think that this is going to need to be addressed by the city fairly soon. Possibly we need to look at that in the general plan and say that the potential development that take place is going to require the city to widen 2700 East to accommodate the traffic flow there.
Is this a discussion we should have another time? Sounds like
Another
we're
time, yes, but,
diverging from the point at hand.
Yeah.
Right. I'm only bringing it up because I know that there was concern raised by the citizens, and I'm just pointing out that this particular use does not require the widening right now. But I do feel like that long term, we need to look at that, and I do believe that there's going to be a need for widening, but it couldn't be put on the shoulders of this particular one development.
Okay.
No, and I agree with that. I just don't want to get into another hour-long discussion about the general plan.
No, that wasn't my point. I'm just saying that's where it needs to be addressed.
So put that on the agenda for the general plan update.
So to make this, to get to the nitty gritty, let's just do that.
Yep.
This business will not, according to Nate's traffic study, will not significantly impact 2700 East as it stands alone today.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's
correct.
Correct.
So that's what I've got to worry about with this particular thing.
Right now.
Correct? Am I on the right page? I just want to
Yes.
make sure. Okay.
Yes. According to the study, that's what the numbers suggest.
Okay. Okay.
I still have a couple more questions, Rob, when you're.
Sure, Tim. So, I mean, that's my concern with the traffic study. You're the engineer, Brandon. You're our engineer. I assume, well, not assume, but I believe what you tell me because you're our guy, right? And it sounds like we're good with the traffic. So I'm happy.
Based on my review of their study, I don't have any concerns. If you feel like it needs to go to someone else besides me, then that's fine too.
I personally don't see that as a need. So, Tim, go ahead.
Just going back to the site, in Brandon's letter, he mentioned a couple things that I wanted to talk about. One was the width of the exit onto the frontage road. You were just concerned, Brandon, they're showing 32 feet and you thought that 38 feet would be more appropriate. So what can we do there? I don't know. I mean, you made that suggestion. It seems like we need to make a decision as to what's going to happen there.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like it knowing not just for the car wash, if it was just going to be a car wash and nothing else ever in the future, then maybe it's fine the way it's proposed. But I feel like that the use that there's more uses anticipated as you go south. I feel like having 2 outs and 1 in, which is, what Maverick has, would be best at that south entrance.
Is there, I mean, that would require that we actually expand the size of lot 1 to accommodate that additional 6 feet, I would assume.
I don't know if all of the entire entrance has to be located on lot 1. There's
so they
enough.
could get an easement over the remainder parcel for that additional 6 feet. Or can that be addressed when they develop the remainder parcel and that width?
Yeah, this is sort of like the traffic study that we just had a discussion on. We have to consider the impacts of this project, not future projects at the current time. Now, it might be good, might be wise on the part of the owner, the developer, Mr. Murray, to consider what future projects there might be that might require a widened access point. But if we're talking about requiring something, we need to make sure that we're tying it to this development, not something that may or may not come in the future.
Okay. So
yeah, I would agree with, sorry, Tim, I just want to say, I agree with what Barry's saying. My comment probably is more to the developer to say, have you thought through this as it relates to the future use? I feel like when it's all developed, it probably needs to be that, but I suppose I wouldn't say that has to be required. I guess what they're proposing right now probably works, but it may need to be widened in the future. So maybe I should clarify my comments to say that.
Okay.
And I could be wrong here, but just to be clear, I think from the very initial proposal, we actually did widen it already from what we had initially had set in place.
Yes, you did.
So as it sits now, 32 feet will service the car wash.
Yes, it does.
Okay. And my next question is in regard to landscaping. You brought up the issue in E8, indicates they have 13.7%. City code requires 15%. And based on exceptional design and materials, we can reduce it to 10%. So I just wanted to have a discussion about that.
Yes, I appreciate you reading my memo.
So I'd like to know, what would it take to get it from 13.7 to 15?
Take out a parking spot.
Is that all we're talking about?
Well, what's a parking spot? 10 by 8?
Yeah, I mean, that's a percentage, so I don't know.
Math.
And I don't want to take away from the functionality of a project either, just to come up with a number.
Right.
But we're not achieving any more open space by changing a portion of the property from asphalt to grass or rock mulch. So are we really achieving anything, or do they actually have to reduce the size of the building to gain the that additional percentage? So I guess I'm trying to understand how that changes. How do we go about?
I don't think that's up to us to decide if, I mean, unless you want to grant them this exceptional design variance from the standard, we just tell them they have to come up with the 15%, let them decide whether that's, they shave the building down or they take out a parking stall or two.
So when you look at a landscape plan and you come up with the 15%, are you only looking at the areas that have plants, or?
You'll have to ask Brandon how he calculated that. I'm not sure.
I didn't calculate it. I just went off of their table.
Oh, off their table.
Their table just shows the 13.7 and the code just requires 15. So I was only just pointing out that it's just slightly under what's required. So my assumption would be that all the xeriscaping that they have on there, you just take the area of what that is versus the total area, and that's your percent. So I don't think it would take much. I really don't have any concerns with it being the 13.7. It's just merely crossing T's and dotting I's.
Well,
I don't see any.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Tim.
I was just going to say, I don't see that we're accomplishing anything by taking a parking stall and turning it into rock mulch. There's no benefit to the city as far as that goes. But if the number's based on the size of the building and then open space outside of the building, then that is a larger issue. But if we're just talking about what's landscaped versus asphalt, I think we just want to have a good plan that works for the benefit of the business, the citizens. And so I don't want to get hung up on 13.7 versus 15. If we feel like they have a good design, then I'm in favor of reducing the landscaped area.
So I like the design, and I get what you're saying, Tim, but some of the things I've heard in the past is that things aren't enforced. And if 15's the code, then why shouldn't they meet that? Every other business has to meet that.
Agree.
I get it's not adding much, but it was put in the code for a reason.
Yeah, and I think that's great.
Well, there's those 4 parking spots off to the east, on the east side of the plan. I mean, I guess if you really want to chew up one of those spots just to put more grass, that would get you there, I think.
Well, let's have, I think that should be part of any kind of a recommendation, is that number needs to get to 15.
And let them decide. Correct.
If Scott increases the landscape buffer on the west side next to the charter school, if he increases that by 3 feet, I believe he'll be at his 15%. It looks like it's now approximately 8 or 10. So adding 3 feet to it,
And
pretty minimal.
yeah, and I don't want to spell out kind of what Gary was saying. I don't know that we need to spell out specifically where. Just
I agree. I mean, I just making suggestions, just like Dan did. I'm good with what Dan said too. That works for me. But I think Gary does bring up a good point. That, let's make sure that everybody's treated equally.
Right.
Can you just remind me? That's let's see, improvement plans E8. Is that right?
Yes, E8.
The landscape plan indicates 13.7, city code requires 15.
Correct.
You
Make
mean,
sure as we go back to Nate and adjust that we get the right.
well, E8 is Brandon Jones' letter.
Yeah, that's what you were referring to earlier, I think.
Yes, that's what I was referring to.
Okay.
I don't know where Brandon was reading the 13.7 from exactly.
Yeah, it's in there. It's on E8.
Okay.
The table is just on the landscape plan.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's a good idea. Let's just put that into the motion. Tim, do you have another concern?
No, I think that was it on.
Okay. Is there anything else amongst the plan commission?
Nothing from me.
I'd like to see a motion then, if there isn't any. Don't all yell at once.
I've got a few notes. I could probably make one.
Shoot it at us with your notes and we'll compare.
Okay. So I'm looking at just the final site and improvement plans. And I'd like to, we're just making a recommendation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to recommend the final site and improvement plans of South Weaver Transition Subdivision Lot 1 for Morty's Car Wash. Subject to the Barry Burton's review of May 22nd, 2020, amending his review from 3 automatic and 3 self-serve to 3 automatic and 4 self-serve bays.
Okay.
Subject to Brandon Jones' review of May 22nd, 2020. With the recommendation that the developer reach 15% of landscaping as required by code. And also I'd like to recommend that the color scheme that was included that referenced the gray, the storm gray tones, that those color schemes be included on all 4 elevations. And I don't know if I'm very clear on that, Taylor, if you're wanting something else along there.
That covers it. Great.
Okay. And then I would also like to have the recommendation based on it being subject to the rezone from CH to C.
Okay.
That's all I have.
That's what's on my list. Is there a second from the plan commission?
Did we get the landscape percentage in there? Did I?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I'll second.
Okay. Roll call. Aye. Aye. Gary?
Aye.
West?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Taylor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, on to item 6, conditional use permit for the South Weaver Transition Subdivision, Lot 1, Morty's Car Wash, applicant Scott Mortensen. So I'd like to move to this conditional use permit. The first thing that I have concerns with is the hours of operation. I was under the impression it would be closed at night, but I'm not sure I remember where that idea come from. I thought it was our previous meeting, but I have concern about a 24-hour operation. Is there any comment from the commission?
I fully agree. And looking at the newer car washes that are being put up in other nearby communities, none of them are open 24 hours. The Quick Quacks, Mountain Shine. I just, during the day, the noise isn't going to be an issue because you're going to have the traffic, the planes, everything. I think the noise will be minimized, but I would not want to be a resident near there and hearing vacuums and dryers going off at 3 o'clock in the morning. I have some concerns about that. And I think a lot of the city does as well.
Yeah.
Do we want to set a time of operation, say from 6 in the morning till 10 at night?
So my thought was, as I was working it out in my head, was something like summer hours being May 1 through October or something, or even following the daylight saving schedule of something like 6 a.m. to 11, and in the winter scaling that back down to 6 a.m. to like 9. It was my thought.
So can we ask Scott why the 24/7?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, happy to respond to that. I think I somewhat mentioned it earlier. We did have a conversation about this, by the way. I can't remember if it was the first time or the second meeting that we had, and we did have a conversation about it as an option. We never finalized it. I did mention, yes, it's an option. So we prefer not to. At the same time, I think we're always open to discussion. The reason we found that it's useful is that there are individuals, especially Hill Air Force Base and others, that might want to wash their car. I think of nurses that start a shift at 5 a.m. and go to 5 p.m. I think of others that have unique times, and that's the time they can do it. And so from a car wash perspective, with the cost of car washes, building the equipment itself, and just the business aspect, it makes sense for us to be able to provide that as an option for the public, for anyone. And it helps us in our business case to be able to do it, in my business case. The other thing is really just the fact that really anyone, we don't like Quick Quack, like the other car washes like that. We don't necessarily have staff there 24/7. We would have staff there during normal business hours, but we do have security and adequate lighting. We have security cameras, 16 security cameras throughout that will be placed. So that's not an issue at all, honestly, but that's really the reasoning, the business and the availability for folks that have different schedules than you and I.
Let me ask this, because you own 3 other car washes?
I don't own 3 others. I've worked with them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So how many people are really washing their car between 10 and 5 in the morning?
Pretty minimal. It's
so it wouldn't impact your business hardly at all.
It's 5% is 5%. It's like Maverick, right? Saying, hey, we're going to close our gas. I know gas is a totally different subject, but it's the point is that they have access, and access and convenience is the name of the game, I think, in most industries like this.
Well, and I'm pretty sure that you'd appreciate the fact that most of your customers are probably going to be from South Weaver, and if we were accommodating to them, you would probably receive more favorable patronage from South Weaver citizens,
sure.
Right? How do I say that more politically correct, right?
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So so that's what I'm kind of thinking is I think I know it's 5%. I get that. That's not a small number. I get it, but I think it might go a long ways to helping South Weaver citizens to be more liking the project.
Yeah. And if that is the case, what I would propose is the owner would be a 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. I know it's 1 hour on each end, but there are those that leave earlier to go to work, those that have different schedules than we do.
Yeah, but if you're a
That would be a
nurse, you
good-
have to be, if you're a nurse, you have to be at work at 5 a.m., not go to the car wash at 5.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I guess it depends on the shifts, right? 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. shifts, but I think that's to give a little bit. I would just suggest that if that's a possibility. It would still allow the self-serve, but the automatics with the loud sounds of the and the vacuums, we could accommodate that.
So Rob, can I ask the question, what
Okay.
level of sound do you think we're going to be experiencing? I mean, the residences that I can see are quite a ways away. So, I mean, do we take the recommendations of the sound study at their value and assume that, you know, I'm just doing some quick measurements, even at the most southern boundary line of the car wash, we're still, I'm measuring about 80 feet to the closest habitable structure, but I think that's more of a shed than anything. And so, I mean, when we look at the comparisons of the noise that could be experienced at 70 decibels, that's no different than what we're going to be hearing from Highway 89. So, I mean, I agree. You want to address the noise issues. I'm not discounting that, but what do those numbers bear out? And
It's going to be a lot quieter than an F-35.
True, and Highway 89.
Good point.
There's that.
Highway 89 is a good example.
And we accepted the Air Force's sound study on the F-35.
So yeah, which is show our, you know, right?
And Taylor, I think your point's a good one. I mean, we did the sound study for a reason, and it does show that it wouldn't be a hindrance.
Yeah, and to bring up your point, I mean, that's the only study I have, and I have to go with at least that's, you know, correct and accurate. You know, I could pull out my lightsaber and try to use the force here, but I don't really think that's going to work. So I think the noise is there, and I think according to that sound study, like you said, is probably pretty accurate. I don't know if we have a choice to believe otherwise.
I guess my one thought I had is just going along the lines of what Taylor indicated, that we do have the sound study, and it doesn't seem that the sounds, according to the study, are going to impact the area. What's the possibility of us reviewing this in 6 months, the conditional use based on sound, you know, based on complaints?
So are you saying, Tim, start at 24 hours and then if it needs to
right
back?
Right, and see if we have an issue, and being able to keep the authority, the control, and if we don't have a problem, let's not regulate something that doesn't exist.
I could get on board with that.
I like that idea.
I still have a problem. I mean, Scott, I understand what you're saying, but I just don't see the need to keep this open 24/7. It just, you know, looking at kind of just everything else, you know, other car washes and stuff, I don't see the need. And I think this is a concession that could be made that, as Rob was saying, would win you support of the community. I know for me, I don't want it 24/7.
What hours would you think would be appropriate, Gary? You think, I mean, he's proposed what, the 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. Would that work for you? Or?
Well, you know, looking at what others are doing, and again, not that that's, you know, we have to do that, but most are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
But you have to realize it's a different model, right? Quick car wash is a different model than our car wash.
That's true. That's true. But the other ones that are open 24/7, you know, like the old Terrace car wash and the old bays that were built during the 80s, they don't have all, you know, the dryers and the noise that come with this. So.
And I would just say, you know, Gary, that in reality, I think part of it is because I want to serve the citizens. There are citizens that are nurses. There are citizens that work up a hill on different shifts and things like that. I have a next door neighbor that is a mechanic there. at nights, he would probably go early in the morning or late at night. But and I think, yeah, that's all I'd say, I guess.
Mm. Barry, this is probably a question.
Sorry, one other.
Oh, go ahead, Scott.
Just one other item. The Patriot Car Wash up in Layton is open 24/7 as well.
It doesn't have residency real close to it though.
Across the street.
It's got a lot of condos all
All
around.
behind it.
Yeah. And the
Yes.
Maverick buffering them.
Hey,
In fact,
Barry,
it's a
this
much closer
is probably a
residence
question
than-
for you. Barry, do we have a noise ordinance?
We have a nuisance ordinance, and noise can be considered a nuisance, of course. And there's a possibility of trying, you know, if it became a nuisance, doing some kind of enforcement activity based on that ordinance. But we don't have anything that specifies certain decibel levels that are acceptable or anything like that.
Okay. 'Cause I was hunting something and I couldn't see anything, so I appreciate that. Okay. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the 24 hours either. I think we want to extend. I don't think 9 p.m. is the right, no, 10 may be, or even 10:30 I'd probably be okay with as well, but opening, you know, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to tease Dan Murray just for a minute, just because I really like Dan. But at one point, Maverick said that nobody pumps gas in the wind, so we will never put a Maverick in South Weber. But you know, so who washes their car in the wind? That's the 50-cent question, I guess. I'm sure lots of people do, but I don't know what the opening time is. I think something 10:30 is probably a good time to have you know, shut it off and then reopen it at some point. 6, I don't know.
So what if let's say it's that or some other derivation of that, and what if there are no complaints and people say, you know what, I'm not able, and it's going well. What's the likelihood of going at 24/7? Or what if we did start with Tim's at 24/7 and then we play it by ear and review it after 6 months? I just want to have the same ability that Maverick has to be open for 24/7, considering all of the information meets, you know, ordinances and everything else. I'd like to have the same rights or the abilities that Maverick has.
Sure, I appreciate that.
But aren't we looking at apples and oranges there, comparing Maverick, which provides gas and stuff, which people need on a regular basis, versus getting a car wash once a week or once every month?
Yeah, and I'm just talking about business to business, apple to apple that way, but not product.
I think that you know, if you start off with limited hours and see how it goes, and if the general public says, gee, we don't see a problem, then we look at expanding it to 24/7 after that.
I think he would just have to apply for an amendment to his conditional use.
Yeah.
I would rather start out with the limited hours and then go
Yeah.
from there. I think it's better than starting out with 24/7 and then trying to trim back from that.
You can always negotiate down, not up. Because of the unknown of the sound, I think we've mitigated the light thing. I think we're good there, and the sign, I think I'm comfortable with too. It's the noise. I just don't know what that vacuum and blower thing is going to do. I would like to see a motion in this conditional use permit for hours is to come up with 10:30 to 6 and just automatically put it in so he doesn't have to reapply. Just automatically put it on our schedule that 6 months from opening, it goes before the planning commission again for review of hours. That I would rather, since we're kind of limiting Scott, I would like to have
Have an
him
automatic.
have more of
Sure.
an automatic for him, so he doesn't have to go, oh man, what is, we just send him a notice, hey, we're going to review it and here's what we think.
Is that 6 month going to be during the winter or during the summer?
6 months from now.
Well,
6 months from approval.
From opening.
From opening.
I mean, let's get him open.
So if he opens in September, runs through the winter, he's going to have less business probably.
Regardless, it's 6 months and he gets a chance to have his day.
We'll be able to hear the sound is what we're trying to do, Wes.
Yeah.
And really, if I could just plead that it's 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. There's so many teenagers, so many younger folks that are staying up later than 10 that it would really help our business. And 5 a.m. because of those that have different schedules than us that commute, that whatever else.
I'm comfortable with 11 to 5.
I'd like to know
5 to 11, I guess would be.
Yeah, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. I would like to know and understand what these hours are controlling. Are we just talking about the automatic bays and the vacuums? The self-service bays would still be open 24/7.
That's the way I understand it.
Okay, just wanted to understand.
Is that way you understand it?
Again, do these self-service bays have dryers?
No.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they
do, but they are a completely different dryer. From a horsepower perspective, it wasn't even included because it's probably more quiet than the sprayers themselves. Maybe not more quiet, but it's no more than the sprayers themselves.
Like a hair dryer.
It is pretty much.
Yeah, they're not anything. In fact, I've used them and they're kind of useless in my opinion. They don't put out enough air to do anything.
So we should just drive out of the bay and let the wind dry it off.
Let the wind do it, yeah.
There you go.
Your car hitting the wind will probably cause more sound.
South Weber has the best dryers in the state.
Would it be possible that after the 6 month period that we could see a schematic on hours of operation versus how many customers come at different times?
That would be easy.
Yeah, that would be good to see.
You know, if at the end of 6 months, we're seeing that there is nothing between 10 at night and 6 in the morning or 1 or 2, then we can adjust the hours for the conditional use based on that.
Oh, I see. You mean the self-serve portion? Yeah.
Or the whole thing, the whole operation. We can look at the different aspects of it.
Well,
yeah, you could also see the automatic bays at 5 a.m. or at 10 p.m.
Right.
Whatever you go.
Let's not make this too messy. I'm okay with Scott suggesting hours from 5 a.m. to 11, and then right into the conditional use permit that an evaluation from time of opening 6 to 6 months will give us an idea of what all that sounds like, and go from there. I think.
And the amount of usage during that period.
I don't know if that makes a difference, but it's a sound for me. It's the sound. That's where I'm getting the most pushback from residents, and I think I hope, Scott, you think that's the most fair.
I think that's fair, and especially if we can review it after 6 months, because I'd like to get there in the end, and I don't think you'll see an issue. Honestly, I really don't, but I'm willing to do that. I do want to be clear that it's the automatic bays and vacuums only in your
in the recommendation. Okay. So the self-serve portion would be open 24 hours. Is that what I'm understanding, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay. Gary's having some heartburn.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that, but I'm just one of several here. So
I'd love to hear your concerns, though. I mean, beyond what we've talked about.
I just again, the residents, this is something that, I understand that will be yours, but it's something we have to live with. And, I'm on the west end of town. So personally, this doesn't affect me. I'm not going to hear it. I mean, my I hear the jets more than anything else.
Yeah.
But I do know there are a lot of residents over there who the noise is a concern, and they've got Maverick with the lights that's turned into a big issue for them. I think they're just concerned that this may be another big issue, and I think they have a
Yeah.
right to express that. So.
No, I agree. And I think, I guess what I would say is if we really trust the sound studies, the decibel studies, and the fact that they won't hear it more than they would hear I-89 or the semis at Maverick, that won't be an issue considering the decibel studies. So that would be my comment.
So I'm just trying to understand, Gary, you're wanting the entire thing to be shut down, not just the automatic bays and the vacuums? I thought those were the items that made the noise.
Well, again, I'm just kind of thinking who washes their car between 11 and 6, and I understand what Scott's saying. Taylor raised his hands. Okay, there's one.
I won't say why, but got it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, because I come home from a trip at an odd hour, and
So I think I could live with it. Maybe I'm just thinking of myself. If I pull into town late, I'm hitting my bed first, and I'll take care of my dirty car the next day. So that's where I'm coming from. So.
I think part of the CUP then, in 6 months, that if it's determined that, no, we got to keep the hours the same and because of the sound, and I think in fairness to everybody, that the possibility of all of it only going to 11 to 5, I think that should be on the table as well.
I'd just make one more plea to consider the self-serve stay open because I'm giving up on the other hours and knowing that I want to be consistent and convenient for citizens.
Right.
So for what it's worth, at least the vacuums are going to be closer to the baseball dugouts than they are to any homes. Just anecdotal, I guess, but if there's going to be any real noise impact, based upon what's provided in the sound study, it would be to folks playing baseball.
Okay. All right, we beat the sound thing to death. Hours 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. and 6 months from open date with a review automatically. And if that's okay, Gary, and I think you're the one who has the biggest concern about it, if that's okay with you, we'll put that into the condition.
Yeah, we'll see I'm still deciding. We'll see what happens at the roll call. But.
Okay.
What about the lighting? Are we going to have it just lit on one side, the side facing Maverick, and not the back side?
I'm okay with the way the lighting is. And I would really discourage that because I don't want a dark side for any kind of criminal activity to happen. So does that answer your question, Wes?
And there are lighting requirements. They have to have down lights.
Yeah.
They're not allowed.
The lighting of the sign.
Oh,
That's one of the issues. That's one of the issues that some of the people brought up, is that the bright light from Maverick at night, and if we could just have one side of this his sign lit facing Maverick and not facing the residents behind it.
Well,
Thing
the
about that
building
is-
hides, I was gonna say the building hides the signs from the residents. but
Yeah, it's, the sign
they
is
sit low.
probably placed as about as optimally as you can to hide it from the
Okay.
nearby residents.
Yeah, the placement is good. I don't think we'll see any concerns about the signage. I hope we don't, but
Okay.
I'll make the plug one more time. Just the LEDs weren't considered in the photometric plan. I still think, regardless of size, I do think that will emit quite a bit of light on that roadway. But I don't think enough people on the planning commission quite agree with me, so I won't make it a conditional use, but I am concerned about it.
Noted.
I mean, do you see
Okay.
a solution, Taylor, that we could?
I would just prefer that, during the nighttime hours, that we don't have something like a bright white background with black letters, that kind of thing. Because I know, when I go past Highmark and they've got certain colors on the LED display, and it's enough to take away your night vision, and to a point where you can't see the lines painted on the road. Maybe it's my eyesight failing, but that's could just. But
May I recommend a good ophthalmologist?
that's still close to 2020. Maybe it's just my night vision, but
I've
Still.
not noticed. Yeah, I've just not noticed the lights at Highmark being that bright, but I don't know. I just keep my eyes closed.
too busy texting.
When you
No.
get to our age, you just don't notice anymore, right?
That's right.
Just close your eyes and do 60.
Yeah, just don't go into the light, Tim.
Is there any other conditions that we probably need to look at for Scott on this? I think we like the improvement plan. I think the hours was the big concern.
Yeah.
And the noise. So I think I'm comfortable with that. That's the only. I mean, it's a car wash. I expect spray noise. I expect water. I expect drainage. Scott, I did have one question. Do you guys close after it gets below 32 degrees?
No.
Oh, it just stays open. Okay, so it's heated
Yeah, it's
somehow.
All the aprons, the concrete, both inside the bays and outside, are heated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I-
inside the bays. Closed
I just know
bays.
some do, and I just didn't know how yours would work. So good.
Rob,
And-
something occurred to me, if you don't mind. I know some car washes will sponsor things like car shows, and I just didn't know if, in the event that that was proposed at this location, if we require some kind of, not a conditional use, but a permit within the city to allow that kind of thing.
I don't think that's the discussion here. I appreciate what you're saying, but I think that's city ordinances and rules already
especially
cover that
permit.
base. Yeah, so I don't think that applies here, but I understand what you're saying. So, anything else? If not, I'd like to see a motion from somebody.
Is it my lucky day?
You are
So-
on.
Sure, I'll entertain a motion on the conditional use permit. I propose to make a motion to recommend approval of the conditional use permit for South Weaver Transition Subdivision Lot 1, Morty's Car Wash, based on Barry Burton's review letter, again dated May 22nd, 2020, with the same amendment for the 4 self-serve bays, and subject to Brandon Jones' review letter of May 22nd, 2020. Subject to the hours of operation on the automatic bays and the vacuums to be closed from 11 p.m. at night to 5 a.m. and subject to a 6-month review of the hours of operation from the date of opening of the car wash.
With automatically getting on our agenda.
Say that again.
So, and that review automatically goes onto our agenda?
Yes.
Okay. And then the self-serve part is 24 hours?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
I'll look for a second.
I'll
No.
second that.
Before the second, we're not recommending approval. Are we approving this?
You're recommending approval in this case. This is because it's a commercial conditional use. It's a recommendation to city council. They have final approval.
And it's larger than 1 acre.
I was going to
Okay.
say it's because of the size. Commercial under a certain, I thought, a dollar value actually, and size.
Okay, thank
I
you for
thought it
the
was the acre.
clarification.
Yeah. So Wes, you second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, for a roll call vote, Tim,
Aye.
Taylor,
Aye.
Wes,
Aye.
Gary,
No.
okay, and I'm aye, so the motion does carry, right, with the recommendation to the city council. So the last item on the agenda tonight is subject 7, plan commissioner comments. Gary, you're the first on my list for this. Do you have any comments?
Oh, I just want to thank the city staff for everything they've been doing through this whole COVID-19 pandemic, setting up these meetings. And I know we had some technical difficulties last week, but other than that, things have worked smoothly. So I just commend the city staff and the mayor and the council for all they're doing, and appreciate your good work and to keep us safe. So thank you.
Thanks. Tim?
I didn't have anything.
Wes?
Nothing.
Okay. Taylor?
I just had a couple things actually. I'm curious to know where we stand on general plan update. I haven't received much correspondence on it. Or don't know what to expect over the next couple of months.
There was an email on the 22nd of May from Dave that kind of explained what was going to happen. And there
Right.
was an article in the newsletter that just came out today talking about the 24th and 25th of June for public meetings to get input. And then we go back at it again and have the final draft to the city council in September.
Okay.
It's in
Perfect,
the your newsletter.
Okay. I haven't seen the news.
I think the survey starts the 15th to the 30th of this month.
It's an online survey.
So
Has anybody seen the survey yet?
I've seen pieces, but not as it is. Taylor, anything else?
Yeah, I just have one other question. I know as we've been going through the general plan, there was identified a need or a desire to start going into some of our ordinances. And I don't know if we wanted to try to set a schedule to that. I know it sounds like maybe September is roughly when we're going to be proposing an updated general plan to the city council, if we wanted to try to put something on the calendar before or after that. But I'd recommend that we try to start a conversation now rather than wait until the general plan is completed.
Okay. I agree, and I've always said too, we got to look at some of these ordinances and clean them up. Barry, what's your thought on that?
I think it's a good idea to start looking into the future. I mean, we don't need to wait until the final adoption of the general plan to start working on ordinances. I think there are some things that we know need to be fixed in there that aren't really even related to the general plan in any way. So I'm certainly willing to start looking at it earlier than that. I have no problem setting up a schedule.
You know, if it's okay with you, Barry, if each plan commission member wants to pick out 5 or 6 ordinances they'd like to try to look at updating and shoot them to you, we can start maybe putting together an order and then a schedule if that works for you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea, and the general plan will be a great document, but there's really no teeth in it. The teeth comes in the ordinances. So
yeah. So I'd encourage the rest of the commission to start looking at their favorite ordinances they'd like to update, and let's start getting a list compiled in the next couple of months, and then we'll start shooting at it. The only thing I have to bring up is Barry and I and the mayor and Blair we went over to Uinta, had a powwow with them about the northern boundary line for the city, and what come out of that meeting was starting at the point in the canyon that Uinta and South Weaver is up there. I don't know where it's at, somewhere. It will go down the north, the city line and the county line will go down the north UDOT right-of-way property line, all the way down to the point where the Winkle property, which is the campground property, and it will turn and go into the river and follow the river past Adams Avenue to a section line point, and then go west from that section line point, just as it does today. So just so you know, the Cottonwood Drive residences would stay in South Weber, so we won't put out their flame. So the meeting was very short. It was 25 minutes, wasn't it, Barry? It was short.
Yeah, it was short.
And Uinta was in complete agreement, and so are we. And so I believe Barry's working with the counties to make that line happen, and that vote will come.
Well, yeah, let me update you a little bit on that. So I did get a hold of in our initial meeting with Uinta. One of the commissioners from Weber County was there. Commissioner, what was his name? Hanson? I can't, it's not coming to me right now. In any case, he was there. And you may be aware that there was a previous meeting even to that one with the 2 counties, the 2 county commissions, where it was sort of agreed that if the cities could agree on a line, that the counties would go along with that. And so the cities have then subsequently been meeting to come up with this line, which we did. And I was given the task of kind of, in that initial meeting, this commissioner from Weber County, he committed to have their county surveyor produce a legal description of this line. So subsequently, I've been in contact with them. I just heard back from them on Monday, and I have a meeting with them tomorrow to sit down and show them where that line's supposed to be. Now, I have taken a little bit of liberty, and the mayor knows this, and I think the council does at this point too, but we talked in that meeting, of course, about the boundary between Uinta and South Weber, but we have other issues that don't really involve Uinta west of there. So if you may be aware that that county line, as Rob described it, it goes down to approximately where Adams Avenue Bridge is. And there's a section line there that the county line then follows straight west out into the lake. But there's a point just west of there, west of, what's the name of that subdivision down there by the soccer complex?
Where Raymond Drive is?
Yeah,
Heather Cove.
Heather Cove, thank you. So it goes along the back of Heather Cove, and then there are properties west of Heather Cove that property owners have property on both sides of the county line. And these properties just back up against the freeway. There's no other access to them except through South Weber. We show this on our general plan that we want to annex that into South Weber at some point in time. So I've taken the liberty to include those properties in this plan to adjust county lines. And as I said, I'm meeting with the Weber County Surveyor tomorrow, and then I'll be coordinating that with the Davis County Surveyor, and hopefully we'll see some action before too long.
That kind of changes our general plan a little bit too. All those widow pieces that were over there that we were trying to make open space or whatever won't apply anymore. Is that?
Yeah, it'll be a little easier for us to regulate and deal with that situation.
Right. So most of the freeway will be in South Weber.
It'll be, yeah, the whole freeway would be in South Weber from the canyon down to Adams Avenue.
Right. Well, down to that point in the river where it goes into the river at Winkle property, correct?
Well, it's still, the freeway would still be in South Weber.
Right, correct. Yeah, we're talking about what's in South Weber. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So that would still be in South Weber. All right.
The proposed RV park, would that remain in South Weber?
That remains in South Weber. Okay. What we would be giving up is, we actually have some land that's north of the river by their industrial or business park, whatever they're calling that. By the Burger King.
Yeah.
Some of that land is actually in South Weber City. And so we're kind of swapping that for the land that's in the RV park. And we're also picking up, kind of clarifying that property that is, it's the excavation, the Geneva excavation that is north of the river and south of I-84. You know the piece I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That piece would also be in South Weber.
That's the piece that you got a call for a hotel at one time. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the piece.
Okay. But anyway, for the commission, that's just for your information, so you kind of know what's happening with our boundary lines. I think there's a lot of wisdom in cleaning all that up. So glad Barry's on that for us. And like I said, UNA was very good about it. They were they totally agreed. So they'd like to see it cleaned up. So it was a great meeting. With that, I have nothing else. I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
If I hear a no, I'm going to have to take somebody out. So
That won't be me.
yeah. We'll see you all next week on the 11th.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
See ya.
Goodbye. Good night.
Good night.